पूरा शहर बारूद के ढेर पर बैठा था, बस कोई माचिस जलाने वाला चाहिए था।
Hello, everyone. My name is Rohan. I'm from Hindustan Times. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, Rohan.
Atul sir, hi. Atul, I just want to ask you the first question. I read your the Twitter thread that you wrote recently. I read that, and I was wondering, watching this film, Class of '83, do you consider it um, another stepping stone to where you want to get, or do you see this as what you've been working towards, as like a culmination of several years of work?
I mean, every project is definitely a stepping stone towards next, and in a way, it's also the completion of a journey of what you have been working towards. So, because you have to live on the life and you have to keep working. So, I could be working towards this. That's also correct, and hopefully, it's also a stepping stone toward what is to come next. So, both are correct.
I also wanted to ask you about the adaptation process, Hussain sir, and you. Um, while watching the film, one thing that struck out to me was that there's a lot of story, and I could have easily watched like a series worth of this. So I was wondering if that was ever considered to kind of flesh everything out to a more to stretch it out more into a series, or was it always intended to be a film with possibilities of maybe prequel or maybe exploring the character in another way?
अगर ये सब तुम्हारा किया धरा है ना, then God help you, Singh.
See, it was always a film when the project came to me, and I'll answer you on that series thing. So, it's a good sign that you see something and you want to know a little bit more of it. Whereas if you do the series, where you spread it out, so any format that you pick, whether you pick a movie, whether you pick a series, it has its plus and it has its minuses. Everything has a compromise built in. So if you do a series, you can't make it at the pace and with the flair of the music that you do it. It has to be, series is a more of an immersive experience. The film is more expressive. It can at points be explosive also. So it's an aftertaste with which you live it, and if it makes you wanting more, it's a plus for me personally. And as far as the question of it being series ever, I don't think, at least as long as I was involved with the project, the question never came up. And I think the film works in its merit, the way it presents the 80s and the pace that it has and the music that it has and the performances, the tonality that it has. Having done Powder, I know one could not have done it in series. You see any series, good ones which have come out recently from India, whether it's Sacred Games or Patal Lok, the pitching is different because you have to gradually immerse people in it to invest from episode to episode to episode. So what you are seeing would be entirely, it may remain the same story of Vijay Singh and the cadets, but the whole cinematic experience of it will change. So that's a very conscious call that any producer and director have to take at the very inception of the project as to what are we going for. And because it was a film, it has this kind of narrative and this kind of pitching. So if you have enjoyed that, then maybe it was meant to be a film. But if you feel that you're not getting that cinematic experience along with wanting more story, then perhaps it should have been a series. That's how I look at it.
And Hussain sir, what was your involvement in the adaptation process like? Were you involved in the screenwriting at all as in any capacity?
Yeah, I can't write screenplay, but I was present in most of the discussions, which Atul and Abhijit and the team was there. So we used to discuss, ideate, brainstorm, discuss various possibilities and how a scene should be and those kind of things. So screenplay was done by Abhijit, which he has done a fabulous job, and Atul has done superbly well with direction. I was there in more of the discussion part in consultancy where I was sharing my experiences and I was telling them the factual details about how a police department functions, the hierarchy, etc.
एक और मौका देना चाहता हूँ पांचों को खुद को
You must, as someone who's written so extensively on these topics and on that era. I wanted to ask you, Hussain sir, that do you think in the years since these events actually took place to now, has the audiences or our perception of encounter killings changed in any way? Do we still, do you think, look at it as a form of justice, as a valid form of justice, or is it still a very morally questionable kind of thing?
See, now there are no more encounters in Mumbai police. Now there are no more gangsters left for encounters, actually. So, even in those eras in 80s and 90s, encounters were never thought of as a form of justice. The police basically always mentioned that they wanted to arrest the guy, but he resisted the arrest, and as a result, there was a violent skirmish and they got killed. However, there were certain commissioners at that time, and we have reported that they have formulated this policy of bullet for bullet, and because gangsters didn't understand with that part. But justice was not the idea behind that. It was only to curb the menace of mafia and gangsters, growing incidents of violence.
And Atul, so what did you, when you were starting out on this project, did you have a perspective that you were very clear on in terms of how you wanted to present encounter killings, or was it simply like a documentation of, hey, this happened, and we're just going to tell it as it was?
See, definitely the story informs the perspective because it's an era that some other people have lived, not you. It's not happening in the modern time. So you have to kind of try and find the perspective of those characters, their ideologies and their emotions at that point. Because this was a time before internet exploded, before internet was even born, or media exploded, and all those things. So definitely my perspective evolved as I read more into the story. I didn't come with a set perspective. I had to, live with the characters, read upon them, watch some documentary films from films division so as to find a certain way of life that existed, and that is where the perspective evolved from.
Uh, in recent weeks, this topic has been brought up to the forefront in terms of it's hotly debated. Like there are various sides to it. There are various moral questions that you can ask. So now I want to ask you: in the film, the central character of Vijay Singh is someone who has different reasons for doing what he does. There's a personal aspect to it as well. He feels wronged, and there is this aspect that this is the route that he feels one should take to get justice. Now I want to ask you if it is something that you wanted the film itself to kind of endorse, or to say that maybe this isn't the correct way to get justice.
See, the film is not taking any stand or is communicating a message in terms of that. The film is meant for entertainment, and that is what it is. The characters are making a certain choices, and they are living with the consequences of what those choices are, as dramatic consequences. So I don't think the film is trying to make any statement on the encounter killings per se.
Gaurav, sir, I want to ask you also about this is the third Red Chillies project that has been done with Netflix. I want to ask you, with especially the previous ones that were done, what were the learnings that you kind of brought into this new project, and you will take forward from this one?
See, actually, we shot this before Betal, or simultaneously with Betal. So
Okay.
it's that, of course, but there are learnings that you want to implement all the time. See, making films and series for digital is something new that we all are learning. The discipline towards shooting so many pages per day, shooting within a time, stipulated time, delivering on time. There has to be a sense of discipline, also accountability towards creative. So we're all working and learning towards that, and that's the probably learning that we want to implement every time. I think with every project you become smarter, sharper, and creatively more prudent and efficient, so to say.
I also want to ask you, since I spoke to the teams that were involved with both Bada Blood and Betal. I always ask them that we never see Shah Rukh Khan's name on the credits, but they always speak highly of how involved he was in the actual filmmaking. Like they narrate stories about, oh, he was there on set, he was there editing. So I was wondering, I was curious why his name is never there on the credits, and if that was the same case with this film as well, that he was there creatively involved.
See, he has not been taking a producer credit. I think your question is on the producer credit, right? If
Correct.
he's
Yes,
producing a
correct.
content. As an actor, of course, he has a credit wherever he's acting. As a
Yeah,
producer, I think
producer
that
credit.
has been a practice between the family has decided that Gauri continues to be the lead producer on everything, and Charu continues to be the actor and the creative head of the company, and that's the role that has been divided between them. Participates from word zero. I think when you want to probably develop an idea, like we were attached with Hussain Saab during Bard of Blood, which was written by his protege Bilal, and we started interacting at that point of time. Then we wanted to work with him because he has multiple ideas and experiences and stories which he was trying to cover into books. At that point of time, he shared this particular idea. Then we wanted to develop that. And when we developed that into a 3-pager, 4-pager, we discussed, of course, we go back to Mr. Khan. Okay, this is something that we want to do and take his input and move forward at various stages. So if you have someone who has 30 years of experience within the company and has been at the top of his game and top of this creative field, it's a big help to you, and you can't expect anything more than that.
Atul sir, I want to ask you quickly about, yesterday I was speaking to Bobby sir about the film, and he made it a point to kind of give a shout out to the technical members of the team, the technical department. And I thought that was very nice of him because the film looks spectacular and it sounds spectacular, and the music is really, really good. So I want to ask you about the technical aspects of this film in terms of what was the look that you wanted to achieve, and were you referencing some old films? And the soundtrack is very 80s infused. About that a little bit.
हम सबको पता है आपके साथ क्या हुआ और वो इसलिए हुआ था क्योंकि आपको गेम खेलना नहीं आता था.
I mean, when we started writing the film, the certain look which I had, there's a film called The Assassination of Richard Nixon. Sean Penn is in it. I don't know who directed it. I don't remember as of now. But that was the film which both myself and my cinematographer, saw it and sort of kept it in the back of our mind because it's. It's a bit technical as to, you evolve with the lighting and mood from there, but then you change your lensing of the film because you are also, what we are doing is telling a story of a certain heroes, which the assassination of Richard Nixon is not. So you take that as a foundation and then you build around it, you tweak it to your shooting. And then you hire some of the best people like Anita Donald, who were the production designers. They had already done Race with Mr. Khan and Excel, and they brought in a lot of valuable information from their side. And then there are these very good books, coffee table books, which show the Bombay of that era. One of them is Soni Tarapurwala's Parsis. Exceptionally good looking color photographs, and I mentioned films division already. But to tie it on in one film technically together, your cinematographer, your costume designers, and your production designers become very important. But also keep in mind, it's not a very big budget film, so we didn't have any scope of constructing any sets which were period authentic. Everything has been shot on real locations, which are shrinking by the day in this ever developing city. And that is where having a good production team comes in handy, who can find these places and get permissions to shoot inside them, because it's very difficult to find them, and especially places where there is no crowd, which doesn't require too much of cleanup. So even the production team who was finding these locations and getting permissions from those, especially Bobby's house, in Nasik, what we have shown as Nasik is my personal favorite location, because you don't get those kind of houses with a jungle all around it, the way a police training academies or a cantonment is. So that goes for the look part. When it comes to sonic or the audio part of it, the music and the sound design and everything, there was, of course, because of my training in making movies for the theater as a writer and the one film that I did as director, you learn a certain value for a larger than life feel, the excitement that it creates within a viewer, whether the film is being watched in cinema hall or at home. Like I come from a generation where 30% of my viewing was on a VCR at home with the entire family. You know? So it's not just that. So I'm very conscious of the fact that for cinematic experience to be created at home in some way or the other, it has to have those elements which sort of tend to stand out on a big screen. And if you do it with that approach, when done with that approach, it definitely also stands out when watched at home. So that was a basic idea with which we went, myself and the sound designer and Mr. Vijusha, and hope that it will fall in place. And I hope that it has.
It really has. It looks and sounds very, very good. When you shoot on location, you can tell. You can tell that it's not a stage somewhere, and it feels real. The location feels real. Heightens the experience. So yeah. Thank you, gentlemen, all of you, for taking the time. That's my time. Thank you. All the
Pleasure.
best with the film. Yeah?
Thank you, Ron. Pleasure.